Millennium. And so we've been working with him. Really, with FEMA and all, we didn't really have time the first half of the year or end of last year. But around the holidays, we started getting serious about getting this done, and a system change is never any fun. But fortunately, our timing couldn't have been better because he actually began to build our system back in what, January, Jesus?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it was January and February is when we were building out the infrastructure for you. And then by March, you know, when the everything happened with the COVID pandemic, we were already live. So the timing, you're right, the timing could not have been better.
So the meeting we're going to do tonight would not have been possible if we had not made our conversion at the time we did. So anyway, so since this is our first shot, I asked him, Jessica has done such a fabulous job kind of pulling all this together, all this Zoom and meetings and all these different things we've gone through. Jessica's coordinated that. She's going to be our moderator, or a moderator tonight. And so she's got the controls over the mute button and all that. So anyway, so Jesus is going to be with us to kind of see how we do. And if there's any technical issue, he'll be able to jump right in and fix it. So,
okay. Robert, are you comfortable?
I think we can begin. Jessica, do you want to say something as the moderator? What the rules are?
Sure. Well, I am recording this meeting, so I am the moderator for this evening. Just to keep the noise level down, I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone except the board members and Jim. And then if you would like to speak, if you could just raise your hand and I will acknowledge. That's about it.
Okay.
Otherwise, the meeting should run from this point on just as if it were a normal meeting here in the boardroom. So it's appropriate now for President Byers to take over the agenda. Here we go.
Right. Thank you, everyone. And since you have all signed up, we can let the meeting proceed. So I am calling the meeting to order. That was a wonderful little tap here. First thing to first is have a roll call. So going in the order of Ray.
Johnson present.
Adam here.
Thank you. And Robert.
Here.
And Debbie.
Here.
And since we're all here, we will go on to the Pledge of Allegiance. And Jessica, if you'll roll that, please.
Sure.
Here we go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, at this point, I would like to just make a statement about the state of our district. These have been very strange and challenging times for everyone. And it is my fondest hope and wish that everybody here and everybody in the district and their families are doing well. We live in a truly great community, and I have seen both online and in person how people have reached out to help their neighbors, and I am so grateful for all that you all do to help this place be even better. Eventually, this too shall pass, and we will all be stronger and wiser for the experience. So thank you again, everyone. Next, before we have Deputy Sam Perez's report, I would like to, on behalf of the district, to thank Deputy Perez for all his dedication and service to our district and keeping the peace and order here. You are truly our very own local hero, and thank you so much for that, Mr. Perez. And please proceed with your report now.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I want to say it's good to see everybody. Couldn't see you guys here in person, but this is the next best thing, I guess. So with that being said, I'll begin my presentation. Right now, there's basically two topics that are hitting the community right now. Everybody here has been here for years, so they know that marijuana season has begun. And since it actually began early this year, and I've already worked on 3 groves already in our district. I've also started placing cameras in these illegal marijuana groves. One actually helped out with this flyer right here, if you see it or not, but it will be posted at our mailboxes, the community boards, that way everybody can see them. I'm also going to, sorry about that. I'm also going to pass it on to the other packaging companies out here, along with the farm management companies. That way they know, if they know they can get back to me and would probably charge the individual with a crime. I think it would be great that we have this now because it's a deterrent. That way these individuals that are in our community will know that, hey, if you're doing this, we'll get you on film, we'll post it everywhere, and that means you won't be accepted in our community, so to speak. So I see it as a great deterrent. Another big topic right now is our postal issue. This issue is not just impacting our community, but it's impacting the whole county. Some people say it's COVID related. Some are saying because of the stimulus checks are out there. Regardless, we got to take our steps to try to correct this behavior. I've already made liaison with Amanda Cessna. This is her number. This is her right here. She actually controls the post office in downtown, Old Town Temecula, and the main post office of Rancho California. So if you see any adhesive stuff on the outgoing mailboxes, please contact her. That way her maintenance can go out there and actually remove the adhesive. We don't need it out there. Those same lines, they reached out to me, so I'll be assisting them with this postal issue. And hopefully we'll take care of it really soon. And most likely we'll probably end with this COVID situation.
Yeah.
Another good thing that's going on right now is that over the last 3 months, people have been reporting suspicious vehicles, persons out there, and that's a plus. As I've said in the past, we have arrested people for felony warrants that are burglars, drug users in our community, just because someone called us and said, hey, there's a suspicious vehicle out there or person. So I encourage everybody to call and see if I get this one correct. So if you need non-emergency line, 951-696-4357. Obviously it's an emergency, dial 911. So that's pretty much it. Robert, you got a question?
Yes, I do. Actually, not a question. I would ask Jim to email that number and that information to us so that we have it. And also, I think posting that on your website, the CSD website, would be a good idea as well.
Well, that is in the works as we speak. It's out on the counter in the front of the office, and we should have that up on the webpage within a day. And the guys, I think tomorrow we're going to post them on the mailboxes. Maybe to add to Sam's report, I could report briefly on some of the changes to this mailbox vandalism problem. Right at the beginning of the lockdown or whatever, we had mailboxes vandalized, Sycamore Mesa and Rancho Cal. And the concern was, how are people going to be able to wait in line at the post office? It's going to take 3 or 4 months, and on and on and on. So I made contact with the congressman's office and spent a couple of days just trying to track this down. And there is actually a Department of the Postal Service in San Diego that ultimately the request goes to. So the mailbox is vandalized. The post person notifies the people within the local postal office. And what I learned is that's the snag as far as the time, because those post offices are big places, and it takes a long time for the mail carrier that discovers that the mail box has been vandalized. He then has to put it in his system, and it takes sometimes a month or two before it actually gets out to repair. So I would talk to the guy and kind of befriended this guy in San Diego, and he said, you know, I understand your people 3 months, 4 months to get this is ridiculous. But he said, by the time I find out about it, it's a month or two old. Then I have to send somebody to Duluth. Their GPS doesn't work, so they get lost down there. They have to analyze what the problem is, to take measurements and all that. Then they come back. Then we have to reload the truck, and they cover all of Southern California from Arizona to the coast and the border up to Bakersfield or whatever. He says, so that's why it takes 4 months. He said, but you're telling me you have like field crew? I go, yeah. He goes, well, why don't we just have them report it to you? And you have the field crew, as soon as you hear about it, go out and take a photograph of it with measurements, which Keith did, and email it to me. Because then I just put it on the next truck going toward Duluth, because he has a whole warehouse of these things, and he's got a $3 million budget, and these things are free. So the customer puts them in originally, but the U.S. government pays to replace them, which is a new, I don't know where that came from. But anyway, so we've set up a system where if someone calls here, Jessica has a whole packet of information. It goes to Keith and the crew. They go out, they analyze, take pictures, measure it, whatever, give it to Jessica. The next day, that email's going right to this guy. And he's loading the truck quickly, hopefully, with a free replacement. So, unfortunately, the people that got hit the first time back in, I guess it would about the 1st of March, it took a little time to get this ironed out, but we've got now, this is the third, we have a new one, and that's going out, or has just gone out within the last few hours. And hopefully it'll be in, the last one it took from the time it left our office, it was installed in 2.5 weeks. So anyway, so we'll start publicizing that. And we didn't know we were going to get hit. He did call me after the second time, which were 2 new boxes. And he said, I shouldn't have answered the phone when you called. You're going to break my budget. I didn't even know where Duluth was. And now you've already gotten 3 boxes out of me. But anyway, now he's got 4. So anyway, it seems like it's working. And Ken Calvert, our congressman, his staff did a phenomenal job helping us out. So anyway, that's my report on the mailbox.
That is great. Well, thank you, Officer Perez, and thank you, Jim, for following up on the postal theft issue. That's fantastic. At this point, Jessica, do you know if there's any comments from the public?
No.
There are none. So then we will skip to the next item, which is item D, information only. And those being financial statements and statements of investment policy. And unless anybody on the board has any questions or concerns that they need to bring up to the board, I would, does anybody have any questions about that?
No.
Wave hands? No?
No.
Okay.
No.
Then we will move on to consent calendar. And that one is comprised of the minutes of the board meeting, the last one we had in person of February 19th, the general fund claims for February through April of 2020, the sheriff's special tax claims for February through April 2020, and purchase orders that were sent out. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved.
And a
I'll
second?
second it.
Okay, thank you. May I have a roll call vote, starting with Ray,
Johnson, aye.
Mike,
Aye.
myself,
aye.
aye. Robert D'Alessandro, aye. Debbie?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. And that concludes item E. We'll move on to financial matters for the fiscal year budget 2020 and 21. And the first item is item F, introduction and first reading of ordinance number 2020-01, adopting the sheriff's special tax rate, and written report for fiscal year 2020 and 2021, and a call for public hearing. And Emmons, would you please elaborate on that? Thank you.
Well, it's that time of year, the annual budget process takes 2 board meetings to conduct the process. This is the beginning. It begins by introducing an ordinance which readopts the sheriff's tax, as well as the benefit assessments for the roads, and sets a public hearing for the June meeting. So the appropriate motion to introduce and hold first reading of this ordinance would be to introduce the ordinance by title only, that further reading be waived, and that ordinance number 2020-01 be passed to second reading and public hearing at your regular June meeting. So it's kind of a long motion. That's why I made it for you, so someone can just simply make that motion. Next, after this, is we're introducing the proposed budget. This is to just let the public know what the draft budget is, and has 30 days to review, and Ms. Snyder will summarize that. Then there's just 2 resolutions you have to adopt, which would be item H and I, which would be setting the public hearings in June.
Okay, thank you. So on the item F, we need to have a motion and a second.
I so move.
And who,
Second.
thank you. And roll call vote, please. Ray, starting with you.
Johnson, aye.
Mike,
Adams, aye.
myself,
Alessandri, aye.
Debbie,
Ardolino, aye.
thank you. Item 8, adoption resolution 2020-01, setting a hearing on the budget and
That's
motion.
okay. That's okay.
Pardon? Jim, did you?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, while you're doing the items, you could do H and I next, and then drop back and have a brief review by Teresa of the budget.
Okay, so let's do H and I right now while we're doing our motion. I believe we had a motion and a second on item H, and roll call vote, please.
Oh,
Starting.
Adams, aye.
Thank you, Mike. Ray?
Johnson, aye.
Alessandri, aye.
Byers, aye. Debbie? Arlino?
Ardolino, aye.
Thank you. And item H, item I, setting the hearing on the written report. Motion second, please.
A second.
And who made the motion?
Oh, I thought Ray
I
did.
so move. I so move, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Ray, roll call vote, please.
Johnson, aye.
And
Adams,
Mike,
aye.
and Bias, aye.
Sainsbury, aye.
And Arlino,
Ardolino, I.
thank you. Then let's roll back to item G, which is the review of the proposed district budget as presented by Teresa and Jim.
Hello, all. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. As I said, we have the draft budget here that just was completed yesterday, and I just emailed out to all of you directors yesterday. So we have 30 days to work on this, and I invite you, any of you, to call me also. You come in or whatever you would like to do. We could Zoom. If you have, a lot of detailed questions, I'd be glad to answer them for you. But hopefully what everybody has before them is two different reports. One is the 2021 revenue and expense summary. And then the second one is the actual written report. So I'm going to start with the revenue and expense summary, which I've consolidated everything down so it's easily identifiable. The 2021 budget has been prepared with almost no increase to just a minute increase. For example, G&A is 0.30% higher, not even half a point, it's 0.30. And in-house road maintenance is an increase of 1.86, which is less than $6,000 of our total G&A in-house road maintenance budget. So it's basically comparable to last year's budget. Things have been reclassed appropriately, putting the proper expenses for wages and different categories. So they have been, everything's been looked at and adjusted. One thing I wanted to point out on the revenue section, hopefully you all see there's 3 FEMA categories that say FEMA 2019. The first one is receivable obligations at $2.625 million. That is what we are currently working on, that FEMA has obligated to us. So I'm expecting in the next 3-4 months or so to get quite a bit of that in. We also have a huge, overrun that we're working on, which will also get paid, but it's a lot of analysis. It's a lot of paperwork, a lot of spreadsheets. So that's also happening, and I'm estimating that at about $400,000. Then the middle category you'll see is administration fees, and I have $100,000 in there. That's going to be my time, Jim's time, Keith's time, Jessica's time. They pay up to 5% of your total obligation, meaning we'll probably have close to $3 million in obligations when all said and done. We can get up to 5% of that total on our time. I mean, of course, we have to turn in timesheets and follow all the rules and all that, but we're estimating that's going to come back to us at about $100,000. And so everything else is pretty self-explanatory, the benefit fees, sheriff special tax. Then the bottom part is consolidating everything on our expense side. So after all is said and done, according to this projection, you'll see a year-end carryover of $1.496 million that will ultimately go back to Roadway Rehabilitation Fund. And that's pretty much that page. Now, if you go to the next 2 pages, that is basically just a more detailed synopsis of all of our G&A G&A expenses on the first one, and then the second one is in-house road maintenance. So that's where I've broken everything down. And you'll see 5 columns on each report. The first 2 columns are our proposed budget for this next fiscal year. And then the last 3 columns are comparing this fiscal year's budget based on the actuals that are coming in and the percent change up or down. So again, what I'd like to point out is we're basically presenting the exact same numbers as last year, just they've all been appropriately increased or decreased for this next fiscal year. So again, I'm glad to answer any questions, or if you really want to get into a lot of detail on any of these, totally available for it. So, just let me know. So that's the first report. Does anybody have questions on that at this point before I go into the written report?
No, not at this time for me.
Okay, great. So the next one is basically what this is what we're planning for this next fiscal year as far as roadway rehabilitation, contract work, FEMA work. And when I say FEMA, all we have left to do is Via Vaquero and Sandia Creek. So that's in there. And then there's $550,000 for a slurry seal. Now, the slurry seal we had scheduled for this fiscal year, but because of FEMA and everything going on, it was appropriated, but we never did the slurry seal. So now it's scheduled for this next fiscal year. So that's what that is. And then we have our general, contract work, signs, striping, vegetation, and this written report is by zone. So you'll see primary 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7. So that's basically it. So again, any questions? I'm here.
And these documents will be presented at the public hearing at your June meeting. So this is just an introduction of the documents, and you will actually consider approval of them at that time. And then that would set the taxes, which would then go on the property tax bills next year.
Very good presentation. Thank you very much, Teresa.
Sure, no problem, my pleasure.
Robert got a question.
Numbers add up. Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
4 million.
Actually, not a question, but I think Debbie, we did discuss this at the finance meeting, and one of the things I wanted to point out is that the projection for vehicle fuel is lower than the amount used this year. So I don't know whether Debbie wants to comment on that. I do know that we all know the prices dropped, but I think there's been some savings at Costco.
Yes, there is. I'm sorry that I should have mentioned that as well. We're projecting about $3,000 less we're going to be spending every year, because the more we can go to Costco and buy their gas and their diesel as much as possible. So it's lowering us, somewhere between 15 to 20%, possibly even a little higher. So yeah, and thank you, Ray, for that. So it's working out really well.
Yeah, let's have a for that one. That was a good call, Ray.
Hey, save it wherever you can.
That's right.
However, it is not going to fund your next cruise, Ray. I'm sorry.
Stimulus check will take care of that one.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for that report. Then we will move on to roadway reconstruction projects, which is item J. And that is a report by David Hunt, district's engineer.
All right.
And there you are. Hi.
I'm here.
Hi, David.
Hi.
Good to see you.
So thank you, board. Okay, on item J, it's on the Sandia Creek and Via Vaquero. We got FEMA finally to agree to pay to remove all the pipes on Sandia Creek. And so and we're going to take out the lining of the project, but they'll pay for all the pipes to go in. So that's a good thing. So on this side note, the bad thing is that the environmental people want to go back out and look at it, even though their line was drawn right about where the new line would be for any excavation. So that's something they're working on. I'm hoping they'll wrap that up in the next month, and we can get that environmental then finalized and changed for this and get that going. So that'll then kick off the environmental process as far as the review period and all that. We stopped from going out a month and a half, 2 months ago, because we thought this change was coming and we didn't want to put out the previous one and then change it and have to do it again. So that's the status of that. So do we have any questions on those two projects? Okay, I will move on to item K.
If he wants to.
So item K is it's a notice of completion of the FEMA 23. And as you look at the project, actually, if you go down to the second page, there's a summary on there. We had a one change of work, and that was one of the pipe sizes. It was one that was way down deep in the valley, and we just they guessed at a pipe size on it. It turned out to be a bigger pipe, so it required more effort and work to fix that. So that's what that 36,000 is for. The credit is there was another site that had two pipes in the ground. We knew there was two pipes, so we could see the second pipe, but the ends were both plugged with dirt. So they opened up the two ends and cleared it out. And it turns out water has never gone down those two pipes more than once, and there was like a brand new pipe in there. So we didn't have to line that. So we got a credit for not lining that pipe. So we got a cost and we got a credit for that. So it balanced out to a pretty small increase in price, and that's well below the 10% contingency we had to work with. So, and to me, it's that overall turned out to be a very good project. So I need the board to approve this, so then we can go get the notice recorded at the county, and then with that, we can pay the contractor his retention of 5%, 35 days after it gets recorded. We do this so that we make sure all his subconsultants have been paid and there's no outstanding liens on the project. So it protect all the people that work for him while we do this.
I think we'll go ahead and make that motion and the roll call vote for that, and then we can move on to the next item. So can I have a motion to approve the notice of completion for the FEMA 23 location repairs, and a second?
I'll
Second.
make a motion.
Okay.
Accept it as written.
Okay, thank you. Roll call, we'll start with you, Ray.
Johnson, aye.
Adams,
Mike?
aye.
Byers, aye.
Sandra, aye.
And Debbie?
Cardellino, aye.
Thank you. So we'll move on to item L. Dave?
Okay, item L is a notice of completion of the FEMA 34 location projects. Same contractor, same work. They did a great job out there. And the second page, you can see the original budget was $602,000. We did have a $43,000 extra, and that was, we found a pipe that we thought was in good shape, and it turns out the middle section that we didn't see when they went in there and looked at it was all shot. So we needed to add that so that we could keep that pipe going. So it was justified work and all that. So that extra was around 43,000. So again, it was within the 10%. And again, they did a great job on all these. They moved to their schedule, and we're quite happy with their work.
That sounds great. We are too. We need again a motion and a second so that we can vote on the notice of completion. So can I have a motion, please?
Ray, are you making it?
So
I'll
moved.
second it.
Okay, thank you. So Ray, your vote, please.
Johnson, aye.
Adams, aye.
Byers, aye.
Sandra, aye.
Debbie?
Cardellino, aye.
Thank you. So thank you for that, and thank you for your lead on locating and working out all these repairs and working with Murrieta Construction. It sounds like this was a really, really good piece of work that's been done to the benefit of the district. So thank you for that, David.
You're welcome.
Item M, I think that is still you, that you're going to be talking
That
about.
is still me.
Yep.
Yeah, we went through the engineering committee and talked about how we didn't do any slurry seal projects or any road improvement projects last year because of all the flooding and the FEMA issues. So we decided that we can design a project and get it going. Directions was about $500,000 to $600,000 in expenses. Try and keep it in that range. Go through the streets that are in fair and a little bit good condition, mainly the fair streets, so that we slurry see them to keep them from going into the poor streets. So this is a preventative measure that's out there like you guys did in 2018, 2 years ago. So based on the pavement management study, I came up with the streets, and I separated the streets through each zone to be, the cost to be spread equally to the guidelines that has been set up on expenditures. So I followed that. We have designed those. We also are doing striping out there for all the streets that we're slurry sealing. Plus there's sections in there where we're slurry sealing a couple, the same street in a few locations. And Steve wants us to continue the striping all the way through to connect the two parts. So we're doing that on several streets too, to make it a continuous restriping, because there's areas that need restriping all along. So it would look kind of funny to do just a piece and a piece here and then the rest of it not. So we're adding it to this so we can get a benefit of having actually more striping. You get a better price, unit price for that.
Right.
One thing I want to point out is, as we talked about, you guys, about, you know, gasoline prices and oil prices. Oil prices have dropped down tremendously in the last year. I mean, I think they're sitting around $25, $30 a barrel now or something like that. The slurry seal is made up of a lot of asphalt products, you know, oil products. And so the prices may come in less than what we had before. So that's why I'm giving you a range of 500,000 to 600,000 to try and give you an idea. But I typically don't give such a big range, but under these circumstances, I'm not quite sure. I'm hoping the price will be down low. So just letting you know that that's what we're proposing to do. If you guys approve this, I gave a schedule in there and how we would advertise and start construction in August and finish in September.
Right.
The nice heat of where it's nice and hot, and that you need that for everything to bind in better. You don't need cold weather. It doesn't work very well on this. So with that, if you care to spend this kind of money, it's ready to go out to bid.
So just to kind of crystallize it a little bit, we are saying that we are willing to spend between 500,000 to 600,000 for these projects that have been spread out among the various zones. And if things come in cheaper than the 500,000 to 600,000, we might do additional work because it is so cheap right now. Is that correct?
That is correct. I'm going to put in the specs, there's a line item in there for additional slurry sealing areas and striping at a unit price. Then we can then, you know, attach to that and just have the same contractor go further.
That sounds great. You know, might as well take advantage of better pricing and strike while the iron's hot, so to say.
Yes.
So with now that is there any further questions from any of the board members regarding David's report?
I just wanted to make say one thing.
Okay.
Oil's up to 33.50 right now. It went down negative 35. Now it's 33.50 today. Because the country can't operate on cheap oil. They've got to have the oil prices up or the whole shebang's going to crash. So I wouldn't count on it unless we can buy it from Costco.
Well, maybe they have that.
Ray, maybe you can help us out.
Well, in that case, if everybody is okay with this proposal, it is a motion of proposed slurry jobs, and we need to have a motion and a second to proceed to bid. We're just at this point checking into it. This is not actually approving the actual bids or proposals. We are just asking for the proposals and prices. So with that in mind, if I could have a motion and a second.
I would so move.
So I'll second it.
Great, and roll call vote, starting with Ray.
Johnson, aye.
Adams, aye.
Byers, aye.
Sandry, aye.
Debbie?
Ardolino, I.
Thank you, that's great. I think That will be something that our district will be very happy, our residents will be very happy seeing that there's some action on the roads. So thank you for that. We move on to traffic safety matters, which is item N, and that will be a report by our traffic engineer on issues within the district. So Steve, if you can bring us up to date on that, that would be great.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you
All
very
right.
well. It's a beautiful looking, what am I trying to say, family room you have there. Very nice.
Thank you. Thank you. That's fine. So Dave let the cat out of the bag. We are going to be doing a lot of slurry sealing, and we have combined together, working hard these last 3 months. I missed you guys, but we've been working hard to also add the annual striping program in to this bid. So what we do, if we get a good price on this, you will see and be very pleased with seeing that the majority of your streets will get restriped this year. So we have the money available in the annual striping program distributed by the different zones. And then, as Dave talked about already, we're adding in those streets that are being slurry sealed. We don't want to have a patchwork where some get striping and some doesn't. That whole street's going to get restriped. So it's going to look really good out there at the end of the summer here. So.
And it's really important because these are dark, curvy roads, and the better the striping, the safer it is for everybody. So that's great.
Yeah, brand new set of reflectivity on everything, and on top of that, getting it all done before that inclement weather comes, and the fog comes and that kind of stuff. It's good to have these things all refreshed and ready to go. So we're pleased with that, and we'll give you more on that next month. When we see you again. Yep. All right. So other things we've been doing, I've had several conversations with Riverside County over the last 3 months, and I'll give you just a hint of all the different things. Well, first off, of course, we got that all-way stop put in at Rancho Cal and Avenida de Oro, and so that went in April. So we're happy to see that. Our request to them that we've had for the speed limit to be dropped between Avenida del Oro and the Temecula city limits in that curvy section there. They are going to look at that in about 3 to 6 months, they said. They wanted to give the stop sign a chance to do its job and get people kind of trained to slow it down a little bit there, and then they'll go out and do their survey. So we're hoping to try to get it down from a 55 to maybe like a 45 or so in that area. And so we're working on that. We had that watch for stop vehicles sign that we requested coming up the hill. So when you're approaching via Santa Rosa, we got a commitment out of them that they're going to put that in June. So hopefully we'll get that in maybe even before your next meeting. I put in a request to them for Duluth Road, that we're missing some raised pavement markers out there, and the striping was starting to fade in some places. The water's washed it off in other places, some of the dips. And so they are going to restripe and put all new raised pavement markers that are missing on Duluth Road in June also. And then they announced to me that they have an annual paving program. And so Duluth is actually scheduled for the fiscal year 21-22. So a year to 18 months down the line from here, it's scheduled to get resurfaced. So if there's any potholes or any unraveling of any of the edges of the pavements, things like that, all that stuff will get picked up on the resurfacing. And then, of course, it'll get a brand new coat of paint and brand new RPMs again then too. So we got the county, Duluth Road on the county's radar now. And so that'll be good for those residents that use that one. And then finally, we asked Riverside County to do a study of trucks and the consideration for setting weight limits on their roads so that non-local trucks would not be cutting through our community. And so they agreed that once the traffic patterns, this whole COVID thing and everything, resumes and traffic patterns get back to a little more normal, that they would go ahead and conduct that study and stuff for us. This came about from a response that we got from San Diego County. the residents to the south of us have asked the San Diego County to do the same at their end of it. The concern is these heavy overweight trucks that don't need to be there, that might be bypassing the scales on the 15 freeway and cutting through the community. We don't need them on our 21%, 15% type roads. Those grades are too much for those heavy trucks. So we'd be working with San Diego County hopefully here. We haven't heard back from them yet, but the goal is for Riverside County, Duluth Community, and San Diego County all to work together. So I'll bring more of that back to you next month too, and let you know how that's working along. So, and it'd be good to have that in place, obviously, before we reopen Sandia Creek. That would be a nice thing to have,
That would be excellent.
I got a hold of a radar gun. I was out in your community, and I was following up on a request that we got, a few meetings back, where there was concerns about speeding along Buenos Campos and De Anza Road being the cut-through route, the detour route, I'm sorry. And so went out there and I conducted a survey and came up with some recommendations. So if it's okay with you guys, I'll be processing a speed limit report to you next month to reduce the speeds on both those two streets. And finally, I want to thank Dustin and Keith for taking care of, I was out when I'm doing all these other things, I noticed a few of the trees, some shrubs, different things had overgrown into some of the streets. I got on some streets that I had not been on for a long time, and kind of tucked away, and gave them that list. And like 2 days later, Dustin sent back a reply that they're all taken care of, pictures of everything, it's all trimmed back nice. So kudos to him and Keith for jumping right on that. That's my
great.
report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have.
I have one quick question, and that is regarding your speed limit study. So in place, perhaps new or lower speed limits on those detour roads. Do we need to have a vote to proceed with that?
Well,
We can go forward?
there's no proposal being presented at this time. I mean, I can bring you the report and an ordinance for next meeting, and then you can go ahead and vote on the ordinance if you like the recommendation, you know what I'm saying? But you don't need to, the study's already in essence done, so I just need to.
We don't need to go forward. Okay, great. Well, thank you. That sounds like you got a bunch of things, good things done, even in a time of coronavirus. That's good
It's been
stuff.
3 months, but glad we get back together again, so.
Yeah, even if it's just virtual. That's right. Well, thank you very much, Steve. We sure appreciate all your work and dedication to the district. And that brings us on to the engineering committee report, which says you, Mike. Can you take that away?
There's not a lot to report that hasn't already been reported by my able assistants, Dave and Steve, but we did call the meeting to order and tested out the, our intermeeting system, which is working good today. We approved the minutes and basically went through the FEMA 23, the FEMA 34. We talked about the slurry seal. I think we are still waiting on the design and environmental issues to get straightened out on the Buena Vista construction project. That's moving forward, but we don't really expect to have that fixed. A best effort would probably be next summer, something like that, Dave?
It'll be next summer.
Yeah, something like that. So we've got a lot of other things to take care of first, but we're fulfilling our obligations to move forward with the investigative part of that. And then the next thing we did was we had the field crew report, which I don't have the agenda here, but I think Keith will probably talk about that next. So did you want to add anything, Ray?
No.
To engineering?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Keith with us?
I'm here.
At the meeting? All right. Did you want to have anything? First of all, thank you for taking care of our roads and being right on top of things. And I just wanted to ask you if you had anything you wanted to add to to the engineering report from Mike or from Dave or Steve?
Well, first of all, you're welcome. We're doing our best out there. I guess all I could really say is right now, coming back full staff, our full focus is going to be weed spraying and mowing the shoulders and grading. And my meeting with the guys this morning was, if it's overcast, mow and grade. If it's hot, weed spray. And that's what we're going to be doing for the foreseeable future to try and get caught up on the shoulders.
Okay.
Marianne, there was two things I forgot I wanted to ask. Number one, right at Via Santa Rosa, there's this new sign I mentioned for this tract of homes, which really shouldn't be there because we have regulations as far as a big commercial tract of homes sign. Remember, have you been out there to look at that, Keith?
I have, and taking a look at it, I don't see why we couldn't just tag it with our ordinance and lay it down, because the right of way on Via Santa Rosa there is 150 feet.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure it's within our right of way, and if he wants to argue it, then we can just turn it over to county code enforcement, because they're going to see it the same way.
Well, one reason this really stands out is that I wanted to ask Debbie, what happened to the women's club sign? Because now that that's down, you see this, it's really obvious that that's the only sign out there. Did you guys take it down on purpose because you weren't meeting, or did it get stolen, or what happened to it? Debbie?
I'm not really sure. They had a meeting last week, but it wasn't brought up. Probably what I'll do is I'll get in touch with Diane Barker. She's the one who paid for that and had it put up. So not really sure what the status, what happened with it.
Okay.
All right. Well, okay. Do you have anything further to add, Mike?
No, that's
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Then we will move on to the Finance Committee report, and that is headed by Robert D'Alessandro. So please tell us all.
Thank you very much. The Finance Committee met twice officially since the last board meeting, and one other time unofficially.
Okay.
We had a telephone conference call somewhere midway just to get an update, an unofficial meeting. And I really want to talk, you heard most of what we discussed yesterday already, the budget. The only additional thing I would mention is that the interest rate, IIF interest rate, is at about 1.7%, which is actually pretty good considering
It's not bad.
a couple of years ago it was under 1%. So I don't know how long it'll last, but it's a reasonable amount right now. Back in February when we met, the main topic was the CalPERS unfunded accrued liability.
Right.
With someone from BB&K and discussed that. I'll tell you what the outcome was from our perspective, which is that we think we shouldn't do anything, just continue to do what we're doing, not pay off the unfunded liability, and just proceed. I'll try to explain why. It's a very complicated subject, and I'm not going to go into too much detail, but let me compare it to a mortgage, because I think I tend to think of loans, like mortgages. If you pay off your mortgage early, there's really no penalty. Most of the interest is up front, and basically what you're paying off is the remainder of the loan. The bank, of course, banks need money all the time, but they're not going to charge you anything extra. The difference with this is that there are continuing expenses. If you were to pay this off, there are continuing expenses that CalPERS has that they're not sure of what they would be. Just to give you an idea, one of the expenses is how long retirees live, how many people retire early, and basically how much the payments, the outflow will be. The other thing that I didn't realize is that 62% of what funds CalPERS is investment. And that's a pretty large amount. So if things happen to the investment pool, it's going to affect not only the unfunded liability, also what we have to pay each month. So CalPERS, if you wanted to pay off the loan today, CalPERS adds a discount. And you could pay as much, instead of $1 million, which is what you owe, you could pay as much as $3 million. Some of that is not entirely clear, at least not to me, maybe somebody else who has more knowledge about this. So that's one of the reasons we decided that didn't make a lot of sense to us. There is one other component I think is important for us to consider. And CalPERS in 2021 is going to change the period over which it funds this unfunded liability from 30 years to 20 years. Okay, that they have the right to do that, they're going to do that. What that will mean is we'll probably pay more each year. Because if you have a mortgage and you pay it over a short period of time, you're going to pay more per month. The second thing is CalPERS has said, if you want to lower the 20 years to 15 or 10, they will allow you to do that. So you could pay it off in 10 years or 15 years. If we were to pay it off in 15 instead of 20, we'd save about $140,000 in interest over 15 years. So you can do the division and see what that comes out to. If we were to do it in 10 years, we would save about $400,000 in interest. So those are the two, that's the only other thing that other major change that I think it's important. I think Debbie and I and Jim felt that we really didn't want to do that. That we're talking about a considerable larger payment, monthly or yearly, if we were to reduce the term from 20 to 15 or 20 to 10. The report that's basically the discussion that we had. And Jim, if you can clarify any of this, you're welcome to do that.
No, I thought it was right on the money. Very good report.
Thanks.
I remember, Robert, I remember when I was on finance, we took a look at it a year or two back, and I don't recall all the details, but we came to the same conclusion, kind of like, let's let it ride. And
yeah,
we've got a lot on our plate right now, and that'll just maybe take care of itself. And we don't know what the future will be with that. So I appreciate your investigation on that.
We knew that you had done that. It wasn't that we wanted to we didn't feel that you're looking at it wasn't reliable. Just that things change. And for example, it looks like it may be even more onerous now to pay it in advance, to pay off the interest than it was then. And so it's even less something that we want to do.
Right. Well, if what you're saying that 62% of the funding fund comes from the CalPERS, and we're sitting here at a fairly low point in, at the market. It wouldn't make any sense to be trying to be paying that off right now. Whereas if the market does make a comeback in the next 2-3 years, it would be, I think you're right. It would behoove us to look at it at that point, but not right now.
That's my report. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was very clear and understandable. So thank you for that. Next report is the legislative report on our gas tax funding. And as you know, basically we have turned from trying to address the California legislature with our AB 421 proposal, which went nowhere. Instead, we were supposed to then go to our county and try and work on a pass-through. And that has been rather difficult to deal with some of these entrenched, basically the career department heads. I think the supervisors that we have talked to understand our situation, some of them more than other ones. But in any case, once we got started with the lockdown of the COVID-19, we really haven't seen much more going on, just talking directly to them. However, we have been working on trying to find out a legal opinion on where we stand with a pass through the county. And we have asked our legal counsel, Ward Simmons, to look into that. And if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to switch down and have Mr. Simmons talk about what he's finding out at this point, and then we'll end up with the general manager's report. So, Mr. Simmons, if you can tell us what you're establishing these days regarding where we stand legally with the county and a pass-through.
Well, President Byers, we're still researching the issue, so I don't have much to report at this time. I have an associate here at the firm looking into the gas tax issues as well as the franchise fee issues. So if possible, I'd like to postpone any further information for another meeting. But
okay.
The only other thing, should I go on with the rest of my legal counsel report?
Yes, please.
I thought I would just update you a little information. It might be repetitive because I'm sure everybody pays attention to what's going on with COVID-19. The county, you probably saw in the news, has just now reported over 6,000 cases in Riverside County. Over half of those, thank goodness, have recovered. About 270 have resulted in deaths, unfortunately. But they are beginning to relax their regulations. They've rescinded a lot of regulations when it comes to face masks and social distancing, golf course uses, and short-term lodging facilities. So they're presently working through what's called stage 2 to get out to stage 4, which would be a full reopening, but they're currently working through stage 2. There was a kind of a roadblock there because one of the things they had to do to get through stage 2 was to prove over 14 days that they had absolutely no COVID deaths. Every county in the state was having problem with that one. So we just learned, I think it was either yesterday or today, the state has relaxed that requirement. So it looks like that it'll allow the counties to get, move through the stage 2 a little bit quicker than they could have otherwise.
Mm.
And so that's where we are with the county and reopening. That's really all I've got right now. So is there any questions?
Does the rest of the board have questions for the staff?
Perhaps I could say to Ward that we appreciate all the work that he put in the very beginning of this situation when we were living like hour by hour and day by day, and he was kind of our connection to the world because his law firm is so tied into all the different government agencies. And I was calling him 3 times a day. What's going on? The governor said this, and we heard the county's doing that. And it was very, very chaotic. I mean, not necessarily with us, but the world out there was like in spin cycle. And Ward was just a great conduit to find out what's going on. And some of these meetings early on, when we started talking about having electronic meetings, that was kind of an unknown thing 2 months ago. And he attended some meetings from other clients that he works with. And he's been a really great source of information as to how things are working in this new world. So, Ward, thank you for coming to our aid so many times and giving us the advice as far as what's going on.
My pleasure.
And it changes by the day.
I'd like to say thank you too, but I'd like to say one thing. Down in San Diego, they haven't gotten rid of the mask yet.
Oh.
So anywhere you go, including outside, apparently all the germs stop right at the border check, and they don't go into Riverside County, which is great. So
yeah, I wish.
That surprised me.
All right.
Well,
Well,
I can,
Mr. Simmons, thank you for your report and thank you for all your follow-up and thank you for all your good contacts and help to Mr. Emmons and his staff. And we're looking forward to hearing what you find out, hopefully next month or the month after that. I am sure these are they're pretty complicated matters. We know that. And just to try and get a feel for what our rights are and what we can do, that will be really a good thing to know. So with that in mind, thank you again, Mr. Simmons, and we will move on to Jim Emmons for our general manager's report.
well, we've covered most of the items on my plate right now have been covered in different areas of the meeting. We talked about this upgrade and we've almost made it. If you'd have told me 3 months ago we were going to be doing this meeting tonight and it would be as successful as it has been so far, except we do have a couple minutes left, but I wouldn't have believed it. But anyway, I'm really pleased with that, and I need to say thank you so much to Jessica, who had really grabbed the ball on this one. I don't know, what is it about? I thought I was still young, but when we got into all this stuff, Jessica showed me that the younger folks seem to handle this much better than us old guys. So, Jessica, you grabbed the ball and ran with it, and I think tonight is an example of how well you did. And Teresa was there to back her up the whole time. And then Jesus, boy, we really lucked out having you around. So you'd come in thinking you were going to move some wires around, and 4 hours later, you were still figuring out things like electronic meetings for us, because we really needed the help, and you really came through. So anyway, I think I'm just very happy the way this has all come together. And then the final thing is, and this is kind of off the subject, but there has been some good news for the Duluth community, and that is it looks like the Altair project, which was approved a couple years ago, making traffic, that was by the city of Temecula, which would have made traffic counts on Rancho Cal, particularly around the freeway, at level of service F, and that's gridlock similar to the I-15. Anyway, that project was struck down by the courts for environmental reasons. So if they appeal, that's probably years. So who knows where that's going to go? But
It'll be after our time.
I think the community of Duluth should be very thankful. That was not a good project for this community. So anyway, that's it. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I want to add that we should all probably just think very good thoughts about Sierra Club, because they're the ones that took that ball and ran with it. I always thought the traffic study was going to win the day, and bad traffic was going to triumph over any mountain lion study, but it turns out it was the other way. So thanks, Sierra Club. That was very good news for all of us up here.
The mountain lions are happy too.
They're not too unhappy, that's right. So unless anybody has any objections, that will conclude the meeting, and I pronounce the meeting done. Thank you.
Good job, Mary Ann. Very good job.
Yeah, great job.
Thank you.
Really good.
We did
We
it.
pulled it
Yay.
off. Great job. Everybody did wonderful.
Wow. All right.
Really good, everyone.
Yep. Yep.
Bye-bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.